Coming up on the Making Waves VO podcast.
You don't want to sit there and ask somebody, at that caliber, how do I send an invoice?
Yeah.
What do I do about taxes?
True.
What do I do about, should I, how do I keep track of all my conflicts and all that stuff? And what do I do if I want to reach out to an agent? People at that level, that's not what you're hiring them for.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves.
Making waves. Making waves.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell.
It is, in fact, the Making Waves VO podcast. Wow, it seems like it's been a week, Bobby, since we last talked. Has it been that long?
You've been traveling the globe, buddy.
I know. I did have a fun time and a productive time in Europe at the JMC Euro Retreat, and I'm refreshed. I'm revitalized. My voiceover journey is re-inspired and reinvigorated. So, yeah, it did all the things. So, yeah.
No, wait a minute. Wait. We have to brag about our Kevin. Kevin won the audition contest for all the attendees at the Euro conference. You did a promo and you killed it, I hear.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. So to kind of give, if you don't know what the JMC Euro Retreat is, it's where J. Michael Collins has organized these along with his wife. Now, Anna Collins is, I guess, the mastermind or the real work, the real nuts and bolts behind everything. And JMC will gladly tell you that. But It's where they set up a place like Bobby and I first went to Normandy, France, and Dave Walsh was there, Joe Cipriano was there, Dave Fennoy was there, Melissa Disney. Listen to that lineup, right?
Our guest was there.
And our guest that's coming up was there. So we're going to, all those things. So basically, you have all these presenters and speakers and coaches come in. And then you have folks like Bobby and I and our guest that's coming up that will attend these events. And even Lacey has now attended a GMC Euro Retreat. So it's a bunch of folks like us that are in our careers, right? Doing our thing and trying to get better. And at the end of the week of training, you get in front of all these people and train. There's a competition, an audition competition. So you pick a piece of copy that you worked on during the week, and then you get in front of all these judges. And it's very American Idol, very judgy, very, looking at you, and you want to cry when you're up there, but
yeah, it's nervous. It's a very nervous situation.
Yeah, but I did a promo piece, and I won the whole dang thing. So I was very excited and honored, humbled, all those.
Clap.
Yeah, all those things, Bobby. And P.S. I just found this out, and let's just talk about me for a minute. I am the first ever 2-time winner of the audition competition.
We were talking about you earlier today in my accountability group, which
that's
is all
so sweet.
Nashville peeps. Yeah.
Well, it's like I really draw inspiration from everybody I'm around. I really do. And I just get so happy working with folks, and I hear, the progress and things they do. And I'll tell you, Bobby, this is a perfect segue. A lot of what I've done and accomplished has been because of coaching. It took me forever to wrap my head around that mindset of coaching. And, the famous story is, Bobby, you are part of the inspiration for my career reset in 2018. Do you remember that about going to the conference and seeing coaches and stuff? And
yeah, definitely.
Hey, Kevin, are you going to go to VoiceOver Atlanta? This is 2018. I'm like, what's a VoiceOver Atlanta? I don't even know what that is. And she's like, oh, there's a bunch of coaches there and blah, 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 and they can help you and all these things. And I'm like, really? Interesting. P.S. The Making Waves VO podcast is presented by our good friends at Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
And so coaching, Bobby, was something I started wrapping my head around fully in 2018. When I transferred from radio to voiceover in 2004, I did a couple of things, just brief couple of things, just to, get exposed to what this world's supposed to be like. And then I just kind of went on my automotive journey, as it were. And then in 2018 or whatever, it's like, oh, there's more out there. Well, to get that other stuff, you need to coach for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you need to be coached forever. Even the veterans are getting coached. You know, it's not something like, oh, I've learned it all, so I'm good to go. All I have to do is get jobs. It's an ongoing thing.
Well, I tell you what, let's not make her wait anymore. Let's bring on a voice actor, a voice director, and a voiceover studio owner, and a voiceover coach. Ladies and gentlemen, it's one of our very dear friends, Christi Bowen.
Hello.
Hey, Christi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're doing
Doing
good.
great.
It seems like we work together pretty much every week on something, whether it's a car spot, we're doing, or coaching projects we're doing, or working at Tennessee Voiceover Studios, and it's great to have you on the podcast again.
Well, thank you. It's so good to be here, and congratulations on your double win. I saw that, and I was like, yes,
Thank you.
Kevin.
I appreciate that so much, Christi. It means
You're
a lot.
very welcome.
Yeah, it's just
Kevin,
yeah.
no pressure or anything, but I think we need a boat podcast again. Christi missed that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I know.
It is summertime.
It's summertime. Let's hit the boat, my friend.
Yeah, we will have to do that where we do another pontoon podcast.
I
and
love
we'll have
it.
to make sure it can fit into Christi's schedule this year.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
Remember to charge the
Absolutely.
battery.
So, Christi, you may have heard us talking about coaching and the importance of coaching in the voiceover world. You've been doing this a long time. You started out as a voice actor in this business. Prior to that, you had done radio. You had produced movies, and you were organizing all these things. And then you started doing voiceover, and then you kind of picked up coaching along the way. My first question is, when did you kind of first pick up coaching in the voiceover space?
You mean for me coaching it
For-
or
for-
me
for you-
taking coaching?
I want to talk about you leading others, and then we'll go back to your first coaching experience that you received.
Yeah. Well, it started probably after VO Atlanta, maybe 2016, I think it was, 2016 or 17. I was asked to speak on e-learning at VO Atlanta. And after that, speaking experience, I got a lot of people reaching out to me saying, hey, we'd love to learn more about e-learning from you. And that kind of kicked it off, really.
That's amazing.
I had spoken at, some other conferences. I was part of the FAFCon world, and, we all go and we share with each other. We are not really a speaker per se like the other conferences are, but, we would share knowledge and that kind of thing. And also, I guess in a small way, I was semi-coaching, but more just providing information. I've been running the meetup group in Nashville called Tennessee Voiceover Exchange since 2012. I helped co-found that. And, through that experience of kind of bringing everyone together, you're seen as a thought leader. And it just kind of, people would reach out to me all the time for different things. So that really kind of kicked it off, and then in earnest, and then the more formal coaching style happened after that VO Atlanta experience of presenting on e-learning. So that was me. That's where it started. It's all Gerald's fault. Everything is Gerald's fault.
So many people get inspiration from VO Atlanta. I mean, Kevin's just
Yeah.
said it. Now you said it. And it's just
Yeah.
like you go, there's so much. And the passion for it really starts, I think, there.
Absolutely.
Hang around. We'll be back shortly.
Hey, it's Bill DeWeese. You can splish-splash around in voiceover, or you can make some waves, like my good friends Kevin and Bobby, on the Making Waves VO podcast.
Oh, Bobby.
Yes, Kev.
I am so excited. Summer's here, right? And it is time for dancing in the streets because we're going to celebrate with Full Compass. Our good friends at Full Compass are having an amazing sale.
I remember this last summer, and I thought it was pretty cool, and I think we talked about it then, but it's their annual center stage sales event. And I just got the email about it this morning. I went, this is the time where you can get savings over 75% on some really cool brands that are out there. I mean, microphones alone are pretty cool, Kev, on the savings you can get.
Are you okay with me just kind of recounting what just happened a minute ago when you asked about this?
Yeah.
So Bobby, Bobby's blonde, right? So Bobby goes, hey, Kevin, the Neumann U87 AI, is that like a thing in the voiceover world?
I did not say that.
She didn't say that. She didn't say it that bad. But I was like, oh, she's so cute. She's so naive about what we work with. No. She's like, Kevin, the Neumann U87 AI is on sale for $2,699 at Full Compass. I'm like, shut your face. No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
She's like, yes, it is. It's right there on the site. So that's 40% off.
That's a restock item, but still, yeah, that's a huge savings on one of the most desirable microphones in VoiceOver.
Yeah, it's a restock item, but it's going to go through all the quality controls and all these things, and you're still going to get an amazing warranty on it as well. Full compass backs everything, but my goodness, yes, check out their big sale, their center stage sale, and it's going on through when, Bobby? And what about the giveaway?
Oh, yeah, you have to, while you're on their site, fullcompass.com, you have to click on their grand prize giveaway. They did this last year, too. Over $11,000 in equipment that you could win. So check it out, fullcompass.com, because it's not going on forever.
You can call them at 1-800-356-5844, or again, you can go on to www.fullcompass.com. Fullcompass.com.
We know VO. Sale goes through June 30th, by the way.
And now, back to Making Waves. I want to go back to the beginning of your, because I specifically and vividly remember my first coaching experiences in voiceover, and they were done on a telephone. It was very much a Zoom conference vibe, except you dialed in to this big meeting number on a phone. And this was pre-Zoom and pre-Microsoft, Meets and all that stuff. So can you, Christi, remember when you were first coached in voiceover, and was it a positive experience?
Yeah, the very first time I decided to get back into full-time voiceover was back in 2009, 2010, something like that. And living in Nashville, I looked up voice coaches in Nashville, and there was one that had been listed, and she was no longer doing it. And then there was also Joe Lesh. Our dear friend Joe Lesh, who lives here. So I took a class with Joe just to kind of refresh my memory. It had been a while since I'd been fully in the business. I had been doing it all along with other things I'd been doing, but hadn't actually gotten into coaching classes per se, and to kind of find out what the vibe of, current voice buyers was. So I took a class with Joe, and that was really great. And then, from there on, I started going to conferences, and so I would meet other coaches that way. And I started working with Nancy Wolfson with her Brain Tracks curriculum, and that was by phone. We had to dial up with an actual hardline phone.
Yeah.
She did not allow anyway else.
I didn't know that you coached with her. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I sure did. Yeah, I studied with Nancy, and then just picked up a lot of other coaches and things along the way, kind of one-off sessions every now and then for different genres. Who else did I studied with? Rodney Salisbury several times. I actually went out to L.A. for one of his classes. He had come here to Nashville. He and Joe were really great friends. And he had come to Nashville a couple of times. And I went out to one of his workshops for a weekend in L.A. and really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun, and it really kind of kicked off a lot of things. That was probably 2010, because I still remember I wasn't full-time at that point.
Wasn't Rodney the Zatarans voice?
Yep. Yeah, he sure was.
It's funny, Christi, because he was the second coach that I ever did anything with. And here's the funny thing. It was in trailer and promo work.
Wow, wonderful.
It was right after I left radio, too. And it was like the second voiceover class I took. And then I just kind of did my own thing after that. I don't think I took really any more training in earnest until VoiceOver Atlanta-ish in 2018, which is crazy. But it was I had a great experience with him, and it was the same thing.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
You had to have a hard line, dial in, and do the thing. I think at the time, one of his big campaigns was he was the voice of Twix at the time, too, and then was doing some movie trailers and stuff. So
I still have his book on my desk right here in the studio. It's the tongue twisters, and warm-ups. Yeah, it's very helpful.
Yeah. It's a wonderful book. I say his
guy.
tongue twisters every day. Yeah, Rodney's wonderful. So yeah, worked with him. And then, gosh, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I did that, didn't I? It's kind of like going back to the Wayback Machine, and I'm like, wait a minute, what all did I do? But after I worked with Nancy, I kind of took a little bit of a break from coaching, because I was then, I had gotten my demo through her, and I was, doing all the things, but I kept going to different conferences and stuff and learning more from there and getting exposed to different people, and then just hearing other friends and different accountability groups or different, groups. Hey, who are you working with? And I believe probably Dave Walsh was my next long-term coach after that. And we actually started out doing commercial, but then he gave me a promo one day, and he's like, oh, girl, this is what you need to be doing. So I did my promo demo with him. Never ended up going much further with it than that. Stupid me, but just life happens. But yeah, I did. I worked with Dave Walsh for a while, kind of really early on in his in his True Tell version of
Mhm.
things. So did that. Really enjoyed working with Dave. He was wonderful. I think I've gotten something out of every coach I've worked with. Some coaches I've worked with for shorter amounts of time. Others, I've gotten golden nuggets along the way, and they were always all helpful to me. Sometimes I didn't like the method at the time, or I didn't think the method was as strong or what I would rely on, but I find myself going back to every single coaching strategy that they've all taught me multiple times.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use multiple strategies at once, within, looking at something to interpret it. And, they've all had just such wonderful information and been such positive influences on my career. So really, really good people to have in your corner, and, finding your coach, finding the person who you connect with, or a group of people that you connect with, is really important,
I would venture to say that the voiceover people who are getting coaching are probably much more successful than those who think that they don't need it. And I say that because it's so important to get coaching. I can't tell you how many people, and since I've been doing this, because I have a lot of radio friends, and as soon as they found out that I started this and was having some success, they'll put that call or that message out and say, how do I get into it? Do you have any contacts? And it's like, the first thing I'll say is, coaching is so important. It's not like doing that radio production spot, or somebody who wants to get into audiobooks. I don't need it. I know how to tell a story. But it's needed, and it's going to bring out something in you that you're not seeing. So
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah, and I echo everything you just said there, Bobby. And now I'm trying to think. I'm gonna just briefly share. Along the way, and we're talking about coaches today in the voiceover world, and there's different. Coaches can coach different genres, obviously, but coaches can coach different facets of the voiceover world, and that's gonna be one of Christie's super strengths. We're gonna talk about coming up in just a few minutes. But I want to talk about bad coaching experience, because we were just talking about some really amazing coaches, and all the coaches that we've talked about thus far are legendary OG vetted coaches. Now, I'm looking back and I'm like, Kev, have you ever had any really bad coaching experiences? And I'm like, nothing really so egregious where I felt like it was a money grab. But there was one time, and this is going to go probably back to 2006. I'd just done an introductory course thing, and I'm not going to mention that person's name because I feel 100% that model, what they're doing, is a money grab. I loved working with Rodney Salisbury. I got kindness, I got generosity, I got, good attitude, good spirit, from him. So great guy. Then another coach I went to around that same time, and I did a thing. And Bobby, it was what you're talking about. I'm like, I did radio for 18 years. I'm now into my second year of voiceover, and
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. And she's coaching me and stuff. And now that I look back, I'm like, she probably didn't know what to do with me, except, he's an announcer, kind of a vibe. But I just remember she was steering me away, and she kept steering me to read like a very famous voice actor, because she heard me do a sound like that and thought I could market my entire career sounding
Oh.
like a more affordable
Oh,
version
no.
of that. And it was the guy that used to be Winnie the Pooh. Wait, no, not Winnie the Pooh, but Garfield.
Okay.
And he used to do these commercials on TV, and he kind of sounded wimpy and dopey like that. I can't think of his name, but he was hugely famous at the time. But he was the Garfield guy. I'm gonna get Lacey. Would you mind looking up?
I was just doing it.
Okay. But like one of the original, not Bill Murray in the movie, but the series. It was that guy. But then he also did some Tide commercials or something like that.
Lorenzo Music?
That's him, Lorenzo Music.
Okay.
Music. Very famous voice actor guy. But I had done a read where I kind of just did it like this and did it like that. And she goes, oh my gosh, that's it. You need to do all your stuff like that, very similar to that. And she says, you can market yourself as a cheaper Lorenzo Music. And I'm like, what? I didn't know. I didn't
Oh,
know.
wow.
And I was signing up for it was a voice casting site kind of a thing where you could have your presence on there and you were like a quarter page and you had this display ad. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. A cheaper version of Lorenzo Music. And I'm like, what the F? I did that for a year and I got off there and I'm like, that was some of the worst advice I think I ever got in my career. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I for the most part, I've had really good coaching experiences, and that one felt a little bit more money grabby. And I only did I think I did 2 lessons. But Bobby, Christi, let's go to you. You're our guest. Can you recall in your history, have you had any, coaching experiences, where you were the student and you go, that just felt a little bit icky or something?
Yeah, I did have, at one point, I was working with somebody and I was also going through a divorce at the time. So, this is all about your emotions and being in touch with things. So my emotions were extremely raw because, hey, it is what it is, right? And I remember this particular coach being rather hard and, asking, where's your head? What's going on? You're not with it today or whatever. And I said, hey, it's kind of a tough time right now. You're right. My emotions aren't connected to this because this is going on.
Yeah.
Well, so what? You're an actor. You got to get over it, make it happen. And I remember just being crushed. I mean, they were just cruel. And I spent 3 days literally on the couch. The only thing I got up for the 3 days following that session was to go to the bathroom. I didn't even eat. I mean, I was just I was like, what am I thinking? Why am I doing this business? And it crushed me. And it was a horrible experience. And I don't, and that happens every now and then. You just don't. And they may have been having a bad day too. And those two things together were just, it was awful.
So a good coach needs to be mindful of their students,
Yeah.
their well-being and just read the room. Just read the effing room.
Exactly. Read the room because, if you're not connecting with it, I mean, I have students now that they're going through tough times. And I'm like, well, instead of doing this, do you want to try this? And, you have to be able to pivot. And I think sometimes coaches are so stuck in their ways and I've had other coaches that have had that happen before where it's just like, okay, here's today's lesson. You're like, yeah, but maybe that's not the right lesson for today. Can we flip-flop lesson 12 with lesson 9? Will it really kill anybody,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, sometimes that doesn't happen. But, yeah, that was probably the worst experience. I mean, I've had a couple of coaches that I was like, giving a lot of line readings. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's just like, okay, maybe
Okay, there was that.
kind of knew a little more than they did, but that's okay. We're just going to sit quietly and absorb and hear it. And every now and then, hopefully there's a golden nugget that happens. And, I mean, there are so many different kinds of coaches. And I've also found out that there are coaches that are wonderful at what they do but I am not right for that genre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For instance, as you mentioned before, I went to the Normandy retreat, the JMC Normandy retreat. I love Dave Fennoy to death. He is a fantastic human being. I respect the hell out of his craft. I suck at video games. I am not a video game voice actor, and I am the first to admit it. And he was so wonderful in that coaching session in Normandy at that retreat. It wasn't for me, and I could feel it. I did it. I stretched. I tried my hardest. But afterwards, I was like, I feel like that is definitely not where I'm suited to go. But I'm really excited for the experience. Was it a bad experience? Hell no. Dave's wonderful. But I'm just saying it was just one of those experiences that you look back on and you go, I had that, and I know that's not right for me. Okay, moving on. The coaching experience was wonderful with Dave. He was fantastic. It didn't click for me.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. I want to go to Bobby now. Bobby, do you have any experiences that from your past that might have been like, you know what, I think they were just after my cash, or you know what, that just didn't work, or I didn't. In Tennessee, we might say if you don't get along with somebody, we didn't jee-haw. So did you have any coaches that you don't jee-haw with?
I think it's funny because Christi was telling me about that first coach, and I'm wondering if it was the same person.
Uh-oh.
because I can't even remember. It was my first coach, and I can't even remember how I found her. She was in a southern market, that's all I'll say, and she was really cheap. That was the thing. She was very inexpensive, which for me was like, oh, really? Is this all they cost? But she could not get over my announcing. attend to announce on everything. And rather than work with me through it and try to come in at a different angle, she just berated me. I mean, it was like she was yelling, "You're just not getting it." It's like, how can I work with you if you're going to just try to be an announcer on the radio? And I mean, literally yelling.
That's why you're here, lady. To do your
That's
job.
what we're paying you for.
Yeah, and like Christi, I cried. And it's like,
Oh.
how can you get an authentic emotion or storytelling out of someone when they're feeling that bad about themselves? Unless it's just a really negative feeling about bad about yourself spot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just can't. You're fighting by doing that, and that's just a bad coach. And I think after that I went to Mary Lynn, who is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I just connect with her. And it was just night and day. And I'm going, wow, that lady, she shouldn't be doing this. But yeah.
Hi, everyone. This is voice actor Karin Gilfrey, and you're listening to my awesome friends Kevin and Bobby on the amazing Making Waves VO podcast.
We've all had those bad experiences, and now, I want to kind of talk about some positive experiences, and we've all mentioned the names of those that we love. Dave Walsh, Mary Lynn Wisner, Tom Pinto, Jeff Howell, oh, goodness me. Hugh Klitsky's amazing.
Yeah, Hugh Klitsky was
Hugh's
wonderful for me.
fantastic.
The light bulbs went off for me
Yeah.
so much with Hugh. It was like ding, 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 ding. Yeah, it was great.
I want to mention the importance of, and I'm throwing these names out there, and there's so many more amazing coaches in the voiceover world, and there's those bad ones. The thing is our listeners, you need to do your homework and find those coaches that have been vetted, that have been around a while, that you can tell they don't need your business. If they don't need your business, that means when they get your business, they're going to do an amazing job for you because that's what they do. They're so busy because they do an amazing job. Besides those coaches and what they do, they work in different genres: commercial, documentary narration, promo, dubbing, on and on and on. But not a lot of people teach about business. And the voiceover business, it is a business, but I would say just a small percentage of that is actually performing, is actually doing the voiceover work. A huge part of our business, Bobby, is the business side and dealing with all
Absolutely.
that crap. And that's what Christi Bowen in Tennessee Voiceover Studios has put together, a comprehensive program to teach not only some of the performance stuff, but mostly it's a focus on the business. Is that right, Christi?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh my gosh. Tell us and tell us the concept. Is it because of all the stuff I said, because everybody just focuses on performance and they don't worry about the business too much? Is that why you conceptualize this?
Yeah. So at the studios, we have, I've got the performance classes. I've got the voiceover 101 for all the people who are interested. People want to come in, oh, I'm interested in being in voiceover. I've been told I have a great voice, all that stuff. So I offer the voiceover 101 class, find out what it's really like. And it's a 3-hour comprehensive class that is like, and I also tell everyone straight up, if you don't have the time and the money to do this, thank you for coming today. It was great. I wish you luck in your, world endeavors. But if you don't realize that it's going to cost you money and it's going to cost you time, then this isn't right for you. And those who are like, okay, yeah, I get that. Great. I'm starting a business. Wonderful. So then we had the weekly workouts, which were, workout classes, just basically teaching people script interpretation or whatever. But the one thing that kept coming up in every class constantly was, well, I don't understand how to get started. What do I do next? It's that whole, well, how do I send an invoice? And then also, having run the meetup group forever, it was also all the information about, well, I would get constant emails and phone calls. Oh my gosh, I got hired. I don't know what to charge. And how do I send an invoice? And what do I do with this? And what do I do with that? It was all that back end stuff that nobody talks to you about when you're doing the voiceover training stuff. When you go to one of these wonderful coaches that we've mentioned, their specialty is teaching you the performance part, and you're paying for their expertise and their information. And you're paying a lot of money for that 1 hour or 50-minute, to 1 hour session. You don't want to sit there and ask somebody, at that caliber, how do I send an invoice?
Yeah.
What do I do about taxes?
Sure.
What do I do about, should I, how do I keep track of all my conflicts and all that stuff? And what do I do if I want to reach out to an agent? People at that level, that's not what you're hiring them for. But where do you go to find that information? Well, Facebook groups, people you already know, people, there are books out there. But books can, unfortunately, unless they're audiobooks, can get dated pretty quickly, especially, things are moving at the speed of light right now with the internet. So, some of the books that were created, they're a little past date with their information. So it's like, well, that's the information, that's the stuff that people are wanting to know more than anything else. So I created a class called Career Path. That was a 12-week class. It was in, either in person or online. And I've had about 35 people go through it already in the about 2 years that I had it going on. And I decided, you know what, I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And people who can't commit to 12 weeks, every Wednesday night from 6:30 to 8:30 Central, they couldn't do it. I was like, all right, let me record this. And then I'm going to try to sell it as an online course. And that's what I've done.
Excellent.
So it launched today. It is now live on the internet.
As of this recording, it is
As
live.
of this recording, yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
That's so exciting. Congratulations. What an
Thank you.
undertaking. And what I love is
Yeah.
where you come from and your earnest passion. It's not about, what some people are doing. You're about empowering the community. And P.S., your time is involved. So, you
Yeah.
can't just do this stuff for free. So, we've got to get some, payback on our time invested in all our expertise because, it's a business.
It is.
Yeah.
I
It
have to
is.
say, Christy, of all the VO talent that I know, is probably the best at multitasking to begin with. So she's
Thank
got
you.
a finger on the pulse of everything that is going on. So, I'm giving a plug to you here, but
Yeah.
Well, thank
it's
you.
just-
I
if
appreciate that.
anybody can bring it all together and know what is involved in voiceover, on top of the performance issue, it's going to be Christy. And I know you put your heart and soul into this, so
Well, thank you.
You're going to cover a lot. And
Yeah.
you were talking earlier, just between us, about what'd you say? It's called the drip method.
Yeah, so the way the program works is it's an online course and it's hosted by a platform called Thinkific that hosts, online courses and things. And not only is it the course, the thing I'm most proud of about it, it has a community with it. So think Facebook group, just not on Facebook because, Zuck isn't getting my stuff. It's mine. I created it. I'm keeping it. So, there's a community that's involved with it. But the course is, it's 11 and a half hours worth of information. It's split out into 12 parts. And it's what I call it, they have something called the drip method. So you get only like 1 or 2 courses, or you get 2 to 3 courses at a time. So you're not getting all of it at once. It's more like going to take an actual, course you would take at a community college, or if you did sign up for the 12-week course. Instead of getting it all at once, where most people never make it through everything. You have to do it. Yeah, exactly. You have to kind of do it as it goes along. And I give you time in between, the launching of each module so that you can do the homework. I assign homework. There's homework to it. If you actually do the homework, you're going to come out so far ahead of everybody else who says they want to be a voice actor. It's like, well, then you have to do the work. If you're starting a business, I don't care what it is, whether it's a landscape business or you start opening a restaurant or you decide to, become a insurance salesperson and you have to set up your business office. That takes a lot of work, and so does this. It's not buying a microphone and speaking into it and going, great, pay me. No, it has way, way, way more than that, which is the whole point of the course, is to tell everyone there's a lot of work to this, and here are the steps you need to take. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's my and a few other people's perspectives kind of, distilled into one, and there may be some people out there who go, well, I kind of did it differently, and that's okay. This is just a perspective on here's a roadmap. You figure out how you want to get there. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it sounds like you've put together a pretty amazing, outline of the
Yeah.
voiceover world and getting into it and navigating all of the little intricacies that are not performance based because we get so hung up on all that stuff. And I love this idea. I love the drip method. I love that there's accountability, that you're making, they're paying for it. So Christi's ensuring that they're going to get their value out of it because, yeah, you got homework to do, kid. If you want to get better, Christi's going to hold you accountable to getting better. I want to go to our producer and somebody that has known Christi a long time, and that is voice actor and producer Lacey Deline. Lacey, if you would pop on your mic really quick, my first question is how did you first meet Christi Bowen?
That is an amazing story because I wanted to get into voiceover back in 2015, 2016, but I had just graduated high school and I wanted to do the college thing still, and I wasn't completely sure what to do with my life. And so I went through college for about 2 years. I was an English major at one point, then I was an organizational communications major at one point, and then I finally decided, no, I want to do voiceover. And so I changed my major again to media management. And Christi mentioned her divorce earlier. Her ex-husband was a professor, or I think still is a professor, at the college I went to, which was MTSU. And when I changed my major to media management, he wasn't like my dean, but he was like my mentor teacher. He was friends with Christi's ex-husband. And when I told my teacher that I wanted to do voice acting, a couple weeks went by and he went up to me and he said, "Hey, you're the one who wants to do voice acting, right?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, well, my friend's ex-wife needs an intern over the summer and she's a voice actress." And I said, wow, stars could not have aligned. Whatever spirits anyone believes in could not have bestowed their luck more on me. And in 2018, I became Christi's basically summer intern that turned into what I'm interpreting as a lifelong mentorship, because I personally attribute so much of my success to Christi. You were talking earlier about the bad coaching sessions or bad whatevers. I've personally never had a bad coaching session because Christi was my first real introduction into voiceover, and she put me on the right path. She said, this is how you can vet somebody. This is how you can figure out if they're going to be good for you. Here's how you figure out if there's a right fit. And I've had bad classes, where I see someone doing group workout or group whatever. Those kinds of things are sometimes hit or miss, depending on what you're doing.
It's the Wild West out there in those.
Right. But coaching itself, no, I've never had a bad experience because Christi was my entire guiding light in 2018. So everything, all of my success, I really attribute to so much of her mentorship with me.
That's pretty sweet. That's pretty high praise, Christi. I wish I had the camera on because I bet you're blushing right now. Maybe get
more
a little
crying.
Yeah, that's super sweet. And I
love
knew you
Christi.
two had I knew you two had a great relationship, and I know Christi was hugely responsible for Lacey getting into this world and being successful in this world. And it came via a mentorship / coaching kind of vibe, which is what Christi is offering in this space. So I just wanted to hear that endorsement, Lacey, and your experience with
Thank
Christi.
you.
And
Christi's incredible. Absolutely incredible. There is no one more uniquely qualified in my personal opinion to be spearheading some kind of workshop like this. I mean, she's compassionate and she understands the business. I know we've said that multiple times throughout this podcast, but just really need to hammer it home. Christi knows what she's doing. There's no scam. There's no nothing. If you want success, Christi genuinely is one of the best routes to go down.
don't go anywhere. The Making Waves VO podcast returns in a moment.
This is the Making Waves VO podcast with Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. I'm Chris McCloy, and they didn't pay me a dime to say this. Why am I doing this for free?
Hang on a sec. I'll talk to my agent.
Oh, Bobby, I remember getting into voiceover, and one of the most exciting parts about getting into voiceover is buying all the gear. You don't realize that until you become a voice actor and you got to produce your own stuff. And you go, ooh, this part should be fun. But then you go, I have not a clue on what I'm supposed to buy.
Exactly.
That's why you trust your good friends at Full Compass, fullcompass.com. They know VO there, and you're going to have a great selection of pro audio gear, and you're going to get a lot of good help. And there's a lot of good attributes that go along with buying from Full Compass.
Yeah, so if you're not really sure when you got the piece of equipment, and you have questions about it, they have a free 2-year service or repair plan. They have free shipping on orders over $49. I love that. I think my favorite thing is the low price guarantee, because you just never know. You said a second ago that you're getting into this and you don't know what you need, but how about, do you know if you're paying the right price for it? So you don't have to worry about that when you shop at fullcompass.com. They'll guarantee to match the price on the products they sell for new, identical, and immediately available products offered at a lower price.
They have flexible financing, Bobby, and they also have free expert assistance, and that's why we say we know VO at Full Compass.
Everything from microphones to interfaces to headphones to mic booms, they've got it.
If you have any questions and you're more old school and you want to call them on the phone, you can call Full Compass at 800-356-5844. Full Compass and fullcompass.com.
We know VO. And now back to Making Waves. Christi, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Being that you're doing career path and you are still actively staying in as a voiceover talent, which one do you love the most, teaching or voicing?
Ooh, yes, let's hear that.
That's not fair. I really enjoy both so much. I mean, it sometimes it flip-flops, and sometimes in a day, I'll have a great coaching session with somebody, and I'll be like, yeah, that was awesome. I'm like, ooh, I loved what I said there. Now I have to do it myself. And then I get in the booth, and I'm like, okay, audition time. It's like, what did I just say to them? And it gives me inspiration to do my own voice acting. And, I really... I waffle back and forth because I think I enjoy both so much. There are days when, just the grind of another audition, and I'm like, I'm not booking anything. And, you start to self-doubt because I think everybody does. But then there are those days where it's like, oh, gosh, I got another class tonight and I'm so tired. But, I think that's just general life stuff. But in general, I like both of them so much. And I think for me, it's giving back. And my way of giving back to the community is through coaching and teaching. And that's it's actually part of my mission statement. My mission statement for my business and my life is to give back to my community. And this is the way I do it. Yes. Yeah. Let's be honest here. Career path is for me to make money, on the information that I have. And, it's a money-making venture because I run a business. But I'm not out there. It's not a scammy kind of thing. It's not that kind of money. It's not a money grab that kind of way. This is me, there's value to the information I bring out there. And so yes, I'm running a business, but it's more about giving to my community and giving the right information. So
yeah, and I love it when coaches or instructors are still doing the VO job. There's a bunch of coaches that do, because like what you said, 15 minutes ago, this industry is always changing. The fact that you're in the thick of it, doing it, those changes that you can pass on to your students. It's not going to be outdated.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's no, I don't want to create something that is just stale and it's never going to change, and not acknowledging changes that are happening. I mean, things have changed so drastically since, 2010 was not that long ago. 15 years, yeah, that sounds like a lot. It's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that long. Not considering I started in the 90s, It's like, okay, when you start in the 90s, it's like, okay, that sounds like it's really old. That's a really long time ago. But, things change. And so to be relevant and to know what's going on and keep up with the stuff is so important. Because, I think the second you stop learning, that's when you've given up, or if you've decided falsely that you know everything, and therefore you can just proceed on, and you're the gift that, everybody should just come to. When you start getting that attitude, you've already lost, because you have nowhere to grow and nowhere to go. And I think that's why you have to kind of keep going with everything and learning yourself so that you can keep coaching other people. There are so many, why do you think they make people who are teachers and other educators and other things do continuing education credits?
Yep.
They have to keep learning what's going on too, so they can teach appropriately. So yeah, that's how I look at it.
Absolutely. Well, Christi, my final question for you is, if somebody is kind of just getting into the voiceover world, or if they've been, kind of hanging around doing a couple of things here and there, and they're thinking about coaching, what should they look for in a coach, or what's a process that they should do to get their next coach?
One thing is vet them very well, which I think includes listening to them on podcasts like yours, hearing what their teaching style is, hearing how they sound, what they say about their students. Definitely listening to podcasts is a great way to do it. Seeing if they have any classes that you can audit. Because that way you can, you won't be participating, but you can listen to them, be a fly on the wall in whatever their coaching session is. Learn how they coach. Find out if it's a style that resonates with you. Is it something that you like? Is it, are they saying things, or maybe they approach things, or how they talk to their, students? Do you like that? Is it something that doesn't work for you? I think it's also, reaching out to people that you trust in the industry. If you already, if you're brand new, you may not know other voice actors yet. But if you do, if you've been in it for a little while, just ask, what experiences have you
Ask
had?
friends, yeah.
Yeah, ask friends. I think that those are all, it's kind of the Yelp version in a way. You have to be very careful. And hey, yeah, I've got recommendations, and people have put things out there on my Google page and, Facebook and all that stuff about, their heartfelt things. And yes, it's marketing for me. People wrote those themselves and I didn't ask for them. But you do have to look at those things and go, okay, yeah, people are putting reviews. Don't put everything on the reviews, because you never know how people are getting those reviews. They are out there and there's something to look at, but ask other people, what was your experience like? Now, take that with a grain of salt, because I've had some friends that have worked with some of the coaches that we've mentioned and were like, yeah, didn't like their style at all.
Yeah.
It just wasn't for them. But for me, it worked great. So, you have to really do your homework. I think that's part of it. Like everything else in this business, it's work. To find out the coach that's, that you need to reach out to. Don't just go with, oh, well, they're the cheapest price.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I mean, if that's what you're basing everything on, then you're not going to get the value out of it that you need. So, figure out, do all of your homework, do your pros and cons list, and figure out who the person that you think is going to work for you. And honestly, when you're newer to this, start with someone who's more of a generalist in performance in general. That way, when you get to the point where you want to study with somebody in gaming, somebody in promo, somebody in documentary, you're not going to an expert even without that foundation you should already have. Because that person who charges a lot more and has that expertise to drill down into that one area, that one genre, they charge a lot more because they're so good at it. So you already have your foundation, the general copy interpretation techniques before you go to those really specific genre stuff. Yeah, you may want to, get straight into video games. Work with people who are just general, first, just to kind of get a lay of the land and understand voiceover in general. Then go work with those genre-specific coaches. I think that's
great advice.
Great advice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's typically what I tell people. Start out basic, build your foundation, then start putting the roof and all the, decorative stuff on your house.
Well, Christi, if somebody wanted to investigate, what's your program called again?
It's Career Path.
Career Path. If somebody wanted to investigate Career Path, where could they find that?
It's at vocareerpath.com, which is live and active as of this recording.
What a proud moment.
Yes, I'm very excited. Or they can check out the studios, which also leads there. We have a page for it on there as well, which is tnvoiceoverstudios.com.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Well, this has
Best
been
of
so
luck.
much fun.
Yeah.
So much
Thank
fun,
you.
Christi, and talking about the voiceover world in terms of coaching and everything. And we wish you much success moving forward. Thanks for being on today.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. It's always a pleasure. And thank you again, Lacey. It's so good to talk to you.
Oh my God, so good to
Thanks,
talk to you,
Christi.
Christy.
Great.
Now she's crying.
Right?
I know.
Always great catching up with our good friend Christi Bowen, and I love what she's doing. Most coaches do, like we talked about, work on performance, but I love that this is more foundational for the business side of things.
Yeah, and maybe in a future episode we can talk more about the pros and cons of coaching, because I think we could fill up a month of episodes
It could be
with that.
VO Coaching Part 1, VO Coaching Part 7, VO Coaching Part 11, keep on going down the line. But I've had some fantastic experiences with coaching, and it is funny that you said it earlier, and we've talked about old radio friends that you start, they want to get in the biz, and like, I'm the same way. The first thing you need to do is get that radio broken out of you. And, and in terms of people that are coming from, another world, it could be, the corporate space. I sold advertising for an online newspaper or whatever. And that, you need coaching, unless you're some sort of acting savant, you need effing coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. They all do.
Did we sound passionate enough about the coaching space? It's like, sometimes you wonder, I don't need a coach. I'm good. Man. Okay. Well, everybody else is coaching. And yeah, like you said earlier, it's people that have been doing it a long time too, just to stay sharp and stay fresh and all these things.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Well, Bobby, this was fun. Lacey, thank you so much for your participation in today's episode.
Thanks for having me. It's always a blast.
Absolutely. The Making Waves VO podcast presented by our good friends at Full Compass, fullcompass.com.
We know VO.
Bye, Bobby.
Bye.
The Making Waves VO podcast is produced by K2 Media Productions with hosts Kevin Kilpatrick and Bobby Maxwell. Sound design and editing by Jason Traver. Production assistance by Lacey Deline. Publicity and social media by Shannon Scott and Silas Phillips. Be sure to subscribe to the Making Waves VO podcast on your favorite platform. For all episodes, merchandise, gear, and more, visit makingwavesvo.com. Until next time, I'm AJ McKay. Keep making waves.